They were in government in 2012. The new register was done in April, May in 2012. Until they tell us the difficulties and challenges they had as a result of doing it in that year and at that time, we won't accept it.
Meanwhile, veteran journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. leads forum to oppose the move, insisting it will plunge the nation into chaos.
I want to submit here and now that 10 months is not a sufficient period for compiling a new voters register, and that if we attempt to do it, we will throw the next elections into total chaos.
We have details as the debate for a new voters register rages on here on Top Story, brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready, and Gasson, the nation builder. And it appears the main opposition NDC and the governing NPP are both exploring the best alliances to back their entrenched positions on the EC's decision to compile a new voters register. Now, since the EC first announced the decision citing bloating of the voter roll, the NDC and some parties have been strongly opposed, saying the time is too close to the election. But while that agenda gathers some momentum, the governing NPP has joined forces with other smaller parties to back the EC's position. The party's General Secretary, John Boadu, says there is an urgent need for the EC to compile a new voters register. In a meeting with the parties, Mr. Boadu cited challenges, including the absence of facial verification of voters and biometric verification machines.
I don't think that what they are saying is supported by facts. They were in government in 2012. The new register was done in April, May in 2012. Until they tell us the difficulties and challenges they had as a result of doing it in that year and at that time, we won't accept it until the vendors and the electoral commission also tell us that the time is short, particularly in our election year. But we've done it over and over again. In 2004, we did a new register in 2004, which is also an election year.
You heard there the General Secretary of the governing NPP, and thankfully he joins us here on Top Story. We're grateful for your time, sir. So you've heard the argument against the compilation of a new voters register. What then is your justification for backing the EC's position?
I think that for good evening to your cherished listeners. For us in the New Patriotic Party, any process by the Electoral Commission to enhance and add to the features that will lead to an efficient and effective electoral process is what we've been supporting over the years. If you remember, the run-up towards 2016 election, we believe and still believe that the electoral register is bloated to the extent that we found out that there are some people who registered with some documents that were not acceptable by law. We insisted, we even went to court, the electoral commission, the court decided that the commission should remove. As to whether or not all of it was removed is another matter. For us, as we speak now, the electoral commission is saying that their machines are obsolete. The end of life of the machine is due. It is expensive maintaining and refurbishing it, and they believe that it's even cost effective for them to do a new register than to maintain the old register. More so when the vendors for the old register had indicated that the end of life of the machines and equipment is due.
Well, so you have posited the EC's argument For the NPP, because you've sat in IPAC meetings, you've heard all the arguments. For the NPP, for instance, is there anything wrong with the register as we have it? Because we use the same register for the referendum and the just ended the DC and the elections that we just had. From your perspective, you are a general secretary of the governing NPP. You've seen the register as it is. Is there anything wrong with it?
There are lots of things wrong with it. If you refer to the NDC press conference that they held immediately after the limited registration exercise, they listed litany of challenges that that affected the smooth registration, limited registration exercise. They even went ahead to say that, if you remember, the Electoral Commission decided that at the district level they would do online registration. Per the NDC analysis, the success rate for that online registration is 13.3%. So if you have a system that the success rate is 13.3%, and the Electoral Commission has indicated that they will never be able, because of the absolute nature and the fact that they don't have control over the entire operations, they will not be able to resolve it. I think that it is something that we cannot sit back and watch, particularly when the Electoral Commission says they can't continue with that process.
So another argument that was advanced for the compilation is about the issue of the register being bloated. You agree with that? And if you do, by what margins do you think that the register is bloated?
I think that if you do proper comparative analysis, comparing the register and census figures, you clearly see that a population of close to 30 million, with majority of this population being under age 18. You can't get a register close to 15 to 16 million. You understand? But I think that argument has been said over and over again. And what is important is that the Electoral Commission that has the mandate to compile a register is saying that they cannot continue with the old one they are having, and that the old one is giving them challenges and problems, and that they cannot continue. It is in their interest and the interest of the good people of this country for them to have a new one that will, in addition to the new features like the facial recognition and other features that will be added onto the new one, they believe that they will be more effective and efficient with a new register.
But do you agree with those who say that bloating could not be a very good reason or very good argument on which you would want to get a new register? Because the issue about what causes bloating is generally the number of deaths we record, the number of ghost names on there. If I may, and they say that people die every second. So if we compile it today, we will get more people dying before the election day. Not a good argument?
MFI, you raised the argument of the bloatness of the register. I did it.
And I asked if you agreed, and you did.
I'm saying that I didn't raise the argument. You raised the argument.
So it's not it's not a good argument. You don't agree with that argument.
I'm saying that's an additional argument that adds to the absolute nature and the fact that machines are at their end of life, and the fact that the machines are not fit for purpose. You understand? So that's an additional argument that is raised. But based on what the Electoral Commission is telling us, they are saying that this is their problem, and that's the reason why they want an entirely new register. They didn't mention the bloatedness of the register.
Well, so we are talking about the same register that detected, deleted and prosecuted double registrants just a year ago. How defective and obsolete and unfit for purpose can this same register be?
The efficiency is known by its ability to do what is expected to do. So, for instance, if they said that they want to do online registration and you have a success rate of 13.3%, I think that is something that nobody will be laughing at. If you have a system where, because of challenges in verification at the point of voting, leads to a lot of manual verification, that gives room for discretion by electoral officials and give room for manipulation of the system, I don't think it's something that we can be laughing at. I think that it is important that we give the electoral commission the chance. We should be interested in who the vendors are, their capacity and their experience, and whether or not what they are saying they will be able to do, if they are given the opportunity or the contract, they will be able to do, so that we will get that enhanced features that will enable us have an election that is incident-free, an election that has integrity, an election that is free and fair.
Well, the issue about cost comes up. This is the Electoral Commission that presented a budget of 1.8 billion Ghana cedis to Parliament. They were giving to government and Parliament, I should say. They were given 1.1, a little over a billion Ghana cedis. They are dedicating 448 for registration, then 200 million for elections. It looks like there's a priority being placed on this, knowing that the monies that were given to them may not be enough, because you're asking 1.8. Is there a justification for them to be using this amount for just a voters register, compilation of a voters register? You still stand by the EC when it comes to the cost as well?
I think that this is the first time any ministry, department or agency has requested for budget or an estimate that through the vigilance of Parliament, it slashes down. It is not the first time. And I believe that peace is paramount to any other thing that we do. So if Parliament has approved, as we speak now, the 1.1 that you are talking about, and they will use close to 400 million in the new register, and it calls for an additional or supplementary budget, which we do all the time. By middle of the year, government comes out with supplementary budget depending on how effective they've raised revenue and what they want to do. So I think that election is paramount, election is important, and there's no way government will shirk its responsibility of supporting the Electoral Commission to make sure they have an efficient, robust, and effective system that gives comfort to all of us.
So on all fronts, you agree with the Electoral Commission with this decision. The issue about timing has also been raised, because if all procurement processes go through well, they should get the approval by March, I should say. Then we have a little over how many months to be able to compile and test the register, or exhibit it, I should say. You still don't think that timing would come up as well?
I think we have a history in this country of compilation of voter register that does not support the fact that the time is far spent. In 2004, we had a new register in the year of elections. In 2012, we had a new register between April and May. So from the timelines that the Electoral Commission has given us, and from what you have said, I don't think that it will be out of place or too late for them to be able to do it. But my real concern, as I've told you, is who wins the contract, their experience, and their ability and capacity to deliver on what they are required to deliver. And for that matter, we in the New Patriotic Party, irrespective of the fact that we support an enhanced system or a new voter register, will still continue to monitor and police whoever gets the contract to make sure that the specifications are met, timelines are met, because you must also remember that our constitution or our electoral laws require some clear deadlines for execution, deadlines for execution of the register, and all kinds of deadlines. So I think that the Electoral Commission is mindful of all these deadlines, and it is that they've included in whatever arrangement that is done. I believe that if we are minded, we'll be able to do it, because we have a history that it's not an exception at all.
So talk of history, Mr. Buedo, it appears that every party in power tends to support every activity of the Electoral Commission, because we're talking about history just a few years ago. I'm not sure the NPP supported the idea of a compilation of a new voters register. I'm just asking. Yes, sir.
I don't think you are right in the statement that he made. In 2012, when we were pushing for biometric register, the NDC was against it. The NDC was against it. And over the years, any call for an enhancement, an improvement in our electoral process, particularly with the register, the NDC had been on the other side almost all the time. So it is not true that all political parties in government support what the Electoral Commission do. If there is a challenge with what they are doing, I will say it, because winning an election is not Electoral Commission in Accra. It's Electoral Commission in all the 30,000 polling stations of our country. And you can't close your eyes and say that you are giving omnibus support or blind support to Electoral Commission and expect to win an election. So we in the New Patriotic Party, if the Electoral Commission does something that is good and it is good to enhance our electoral system, we will support it. If they do things that are bad, which are not in the interest of this nation, you hear us speaking. So I don't think that statement is true. Even for the NDC, they've never always supported the Electoral Commission.
Okay, but you don't agree that there should be broader consultation on this matter?
Why not? Why not?
Very well, we'll leave it here. Mr. John Boadu, we are grateful for your time. And that's the General Secretary of the governing NPP. Now, there was a forum today, is a coalition of civil society on good governance. So on one side, there was a press conference from the parties that are supporting the EC to compile a new voters register. Then on the other side, we had a forum, a coalition of civil society on good governance. Amongst others, speaker after speaker raised concerns about why we don't need to compile a new voters register. My colleague Kwesi Parker-Wilson just returned from that forum and joins us in studio. So which groupings make up this coalition, if I may ask?
Okay, so MFA, the only group that we saw today was the Interparty against the voters register. So they were present, and of course one of their members, Bernard Mona, was the main speaker of this particular event. And this forum, as you mentioned, the topic of this forum was, does Ghana really need a new voter register? And in fact, when the question was asked, all the people in the auditorium shouted no. So speakers after speakers gave the people or the participant there a better appreciation as to why the country does not need a voters register. And Bernard Mona, you heard him say that the argument about the register has been bloated is flawed. In fact, all the reasons being given by the Electoral Commission is untenable, because if someone registers today and perhaps is going home, there's a possibility that he could die at the end of the day. So the point about the register being bloated clearly is flawed.
When has the voters register never been bloated before? Because one of the reasons for which a voters register is bloated is that people die. And people who die, their names are still on the voters register. I am not sure whether the name of J.H. Mensah has been removed from the voters register. I am not sure whether Vice President Mr. Atter's name has been removed from the register. I am not even sure whether President Van Satta Mills, who died, his name has been removed from the register. Of course, my father, who died recently, his name is still on the voters register. It's obvious that the voters register will be bloated by the number of dead people whose names are still on the voters register. Question is, do dead people vote? So if dead people don't vote and their names are on the register, it amounts to nothing, because you must go there to ensure that you verify your identity. And so these people cannot resurrect or cannot come out from their graves to go and vote. So even if their names are still on the register, you can say the voters register is bloated by the number of deaths that are still on the register. But it's obvious that dead people don't vote. So there's no need to go and start a whole new process. If you think that dead people can vote, on the day that you compile a new register, people will still die. Because we are told that people die in seconds. So somebody can actually go and put his name on the register, and before the person can get home, he or she would have died on the way. Would you start a new registration altogether? So therefore, there cannot be justification to say that because you suspect bloating of the voters register, it should be the reason for which you should jettison information.
So that's not all. They made some allegations, Mr. Mona especially.
Yes, Ebefa. In fact, Mr. Mona, the point he made was that, you know, there's going to be a census a few months ahead of us, and he questioned why the EC is rushing with the compilation of a new voters register, knowing very well that at least the census will give us a better appreciation of how many Ghanaians there are and an estimated figure as to the number of people they want to register. So essentially, he said that in fact, he accused the EC of actually conniving with the governing party to rig the election even ahead of the December 7 polls.
So if you have publicly stated that the voters register is credible, why do you want to spend close to 1 million Ghana cedis to 1 billion Ghana cedis to procure a new voters register, which processes, as we all know, this is 2020. This is the year that political parties are going to be crisscrossing the length and breadth of this country. This is the time that political parties are going to plan their own timetable as to how they will be able to canvass and win votes. The Electoral Commission now wants to take away the political parties' time and make it their time. So we will not get the opportunity to go out there to campaign, because we should be interested in monitoring their exercise and not doing our campaigns. If we don't do our campaigns, the government of the day has won the elections again. For those of you who have worked in public sector, it doesn't take 1 month, 2 months to secure procurement. Even if you go to the procurement authority and they grant you the permission to go and acquire the equipment, it will take you a minimum of 2 to 3 months. So what it means is that we are not going to start a new register until after March. Now, when you finish that, you have to go through another 3 months of now beginning to obtain the information that is getting people to go and register. Once people register, you have to go and test the veracity of the register by ensuring that people go to confirm their names on the register.
Now, Bernard Mona was not the only speaker at this forum, like you stated earlier. Veteran journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. also took the podium. What did he talk about?
For Mr. Pratt, he doesn't understand why the EC would say the register is credible and yet would go ahead or proceed with the new voters register, because the register was used to conduct the referendum and the just ended the assembly election. So for him, I mean, it is only common sense that you would use the same register for the December 7 polls.
All the borrowing that is being done is because the figures don't add up. This morning, I don't know how many of you have read a story on the front pages of one of our newspapers, which is a rebuttal by the International Monetary Fund of some of the figures that we have been fed with. And they're simply saying that the value of the cedi will continue falling, and that some of the figures presented by the finance minister in the budget are fake figures. And so this is the International Monetary Fund. It's not me. And just this morning, it has made that disclosure. So if you have a situation where your revenue doesn't add up, when your deficit is rising, when your local currencies are collapsing and so on, any sensible politician, any sensible public administrator will begin to think about how to make prudent use of our resources. And that is part of this argument. If you have a register which is credible, why spend close to 1 billion Ghana cedis on producing another register when you have all of these problems on your head? It simply doesn't make sense. It doesn't fall into the category of common sense. It falls into the category of no sense. There are many things which should also worry us, and they should worry us very, very deeply. Indeed, if the Electoral Commission had decided that it needed to compile a new voters register, why did we spend so much money on the reopening of the register before coming to do a new register? Because if we wanted to do a new register, we could have done a new register which would have captured all those who were not on the register already. But we did open the register, brought in people onto the register, and now we say we are going to throw it away and do another one.
Now, he raises issues about if the EC goes ahead with the compilation of the voters' register, could plunge the nation into chaos.
Yes, he was very emphatic that with all the agitation and concerns raised over the compilation of the new voters' register, should the EC proceed with the plans to create a new voters' register, definitely is going to throw the election into chaos.
You have less than 10 months to an election. A lot of people think that we are going to have the elections in December and therefore they think we have 12 months. We don't. The elections will take place on the 7th of December. So you don't have the whole of December. So practically, you have 10 months to an election. In this 10-month period, we have decided to compile a new voters register. So they are confused. They are totally confused. I want to submit here and now that 10 months is not a sufficient period for compiling a new voters register, and that if we attempt to do it, we will throw the next elections into total chaos. And that, from the point of view of common sense, we should shelve this useless adventure of compiling a new voters register. The time has come for the people of this country to insist that no rigging in an election is acceptable, even if it constitutes 1% of the process. The time has come for us to insist that all public officials who have been charged with responsibility for conducting elections will do the right thing as we say it, not as they say it. Comrades and friends, as a fact, there have been many occasions when we have said no to aberrations in our political process.
And that's veteran journalist Kwesi Pratt Jr. That's it for Top Story, brought to you by Bond Savings and Loans. Your success, our passion. Vodafone, the future is exciting. Ready? Gaston, the nation builder. News Night comes up shortly. Please stay with me.
Financial services.